Hey, it's Rich from Planet PE, and in today's video we're going to have a look at how sport makes so much money and why they might be able to pay their players millions and millions of pounds, because today we're going to look at a paper 2 topic with commercialisation, the media and sponsorship. So let's get cracking. So, sponsorship can come in lots of different forms. So you might see that we've got the naming rights of stadiums. It could be a logo on the back of a player. It might be a advertisement on the side of the pitch, or you might see things in F1 or in tennis, all the different logos around the sides. But we also see it with individuals. So you can see that we've got things like Ronaldo being sponsored, Serena Williams being sponsored, and individuals will be able to make money from sponsors because of this term, what we call commercialization. So what we're going to do today is go through it as I would teach it, going to look at some exam questions and try and get you guys to understand how sponsorship affects the performer, how it has an impact on the sport, and also the reasons why a company would choose to use sport as a vehicle to try and make some money. So let's get cracking looking at commercialization, media and sport. This topic of commercialization, sponsorship and media basically is all about making loads and loads of money for the company and also trying to help the sport and the performer in different ways. So commercialization, as far as our definition, it is where a product is introduced to the market to make profit. So that might be that the sport is actually changed and altered, or the product is basically put in your face so that we can see it as often as possible. But it's all about making money. So that's what I mean by profit. Sponsorship itself is a company providing or paying for clothing, facilities or an equipment on somebody else's behalf. So I might be sponsored and it might be as simple that I'm just getting a free cricket bat. It could be that I'm receiving money. It could be that actually they're just helping me out to become a better player. Now your teams might be sponsored. You might be sponsored by somebody's dad's company. You might be sponsored by Wagon Wheels, who knows? Could be anything. Or you might be Cristiano Ronaldo and you are getting sponsored by Nike and you're receiving millions and millions of pounds for wearing Nike products. And that's going to have some advantages, it's going to have some disadvantages, and we'll discuss that in a second. So, we can be sponsored, or sponsorship can come in different types of forms or different types of sponsorship. So we can receive clothing or footwear, we could receive equipment, we could have help with facilities, and we could have financial sponsorship. So it might be that you're just receiving equipment. It might be that, let's say, Under Armour want to get involved with Planet PE and they could maybe give me loads and loads of equipment, they give me loads of clothing so that I wouldn't have to go and buy it. Now that would help me because it means that I would be able to wear the best equipment, have the best clothing, but it wouldn't cost me a penny. Brilliant. So Under Armour, if you want to get involved, let's do it. So if I was a golfer, I would receive clubs from TaylorMade or from Callaway. Now, they wouldn't necessarily pay me to do that. They would just help me out along the way by giving me the equipment. Now, if I was to show that I was maybe somebody that they'd want to invest in over time to keep me, maybe I would need some financial sponsorship as well. So for instance, Rory McIlroy earns about $15 million a year from Nike without ever hitting a ball. So just from wearing their clothing. He probably has a similar deal, but probably not as lucrative with TaylorMade. So just from using their equipment, just from being Rory McIlroy, they want to be associated with him. Now you guys might be part of a football club and facilities might be sponsored. So maybe there's a local AstroTurf that wants to be involved with your football club, so they're giving those facilities for free. So sponsorship can come in lots and lots of different ways. Don't just think about sponsorship as far as what we see on the TV. And also, football is completely different to every other sport. You could be an Olympic athlete and you rely on the fact that you are getting sponsored, that someone's paying you some money to be part of their company, as far as your name being part of their brand, which enables you to train full time. That slight little change can be massive for an athlete, just that they are a full-time athlete. So it's not just these millions of pounds that we see footballers earning. So just bear that in mind. So let's have a look at this then. So we need to understand that sponsorship and media are linked, because the reason that companies want to be involved with sport is that millions and millions of people are going to see the best athletes performing on television. So because of that, it's almost like free advertising, because advertising on TV is really, really expensive. Now, as you saw in the clips at the start, we see all these different companies that are sponsoring football clubs on their shirts, and all that TV time is worth money for them. So they're going to be seeing all those impressions, all those things, and it's more and more money. So those different types of media that we have, the television, radio, things like the press, so things like newspapers, we've got the internet and social media. Every single time those brands are being shown, then there's a chance that somebody might purchase that product. There's a chance that someone might want to then be more associated with that product, so therefore they might just go on the website, they might go and find out about them. All those impressions are basically the reasons why a sponsor wants to be involved in sport. Now, tens of thousands of people go to watch sport, millions and millions of people watch sport from home. So the fact that there's a product there means that the sponsors want to be involved in it. The media want to be associated with that product as well, because they can then sell advertising themselves. So, England are playing Belgium later on today. At half time, there'll be adverts. Companies will be paying because they know that millions of people are going to be watching England against Belgium. So that idea of sponsorship, the sport and media is what we call the golden triangle. So they all need each other. So the sport needs money coming in from sponsorship. They also need the product to be sold through the media. The media need a product, so they need something that people are going to watch, which is the sport. They also need the advertisers and the sponsors to get involved so they can make money. So all this commercialization very much depends on themselves. So this idea of sponsorship and the media are linked, but what we need to understand is how sponsorship is actually going to help an athlete, how is it going to affect the sport itself, how is the media going to be impacted. So what we want to know is how can sponsorship help the individual, and how can the being involved in sport help the business? So here's a question then. So explain how two types of sponsorship may improve an individual's performance. So going back to those are the ones that we had. So we had equipment, we had facilities, we had financial sponsorship, we had clothing and footwear. What we need to understand is how being sponsored, how can they help you actually to become a better sports performer? So if you're going to pause the video, please go and do it now, maybe attempt this question, and then go to the mark scheme, which is going to be on the next little slide here. So what we're saying then in this mark scheme is that clothing and footwear, for example, could mean that you could become a better runner. So let's say I was using the best running shoes that someone had given me. I've not bought them myself. Maybe I didn't have that much money, so I might have bought a slightly less good pair of trainers or pair of running shoes. By being sponsored, that company are going to give me the very best ones they make. Now that's brilliant for me because it means I'm getting the best equipment, but I'm not paying for it. So again, go away from that side of football. If someone was going to give you a pair of football boots or a pair of running shoes, you would want the very best ones that company make. They want to sell those best ones, so they're going to be giving those to the athletes. So what that enables them to is maybe run faster, maybe be able to run further, be more comfortable, have better grip, which is going to have an impact on their performance. Think about if I'm being sponsored as far as equipment. So let's say that I'm a goalkeeper, I want the best goalkeeping gloves possible. So that might mean that I'm going to be able to save more shots. If I'm a golfer, I want access to the best ball. So for instance, a Titleist Pro V1 costs about £4 a ball. Think how many balls you might lose in a round of golf or over the year. If you're not paying for them, but you're going to be using the best equipment, that's got to be beneficial for you, and therefore maybe you don't have to worry about those sort of things. It might help your performance, but also the fact you're using the best equipment means that you're going to have the best opportunity to be at your very, very best performance. We've then got facilities. So you might be having to pay for gym membership. If you're an athlete, you might have to go and pay to use certain facilities. If someone's going to pay me and maybe sponsor me financially, I might be able to then go and use facilities that it's not costing me, it's not my money. Or a facility might sponsor me themselves, so therefore I don't have to worry about anything. So you think about your local club or even your school. You might have received money from companies that have provided better facilities for your school. So therefore the quality of training that you do might be better and better, and that might have a better improvement in your performance. So anything that you're going to be talking here about sponsorship linking to performance would be relevant, but what you're really saying is it has to be those different types of sponsorship and then linking how that can improve you in your sport. So look at this question then. So this one's a slightly different one. So many companies sponsor elite performers. So when we say elite performers, we mean people at the very, very highest part of the game, so those professional athletes. Describe the advantage that a local company might gain from sponsoring an elite athlete. And this is again for 3 marks. So again, if you want to pause the video, if you want to try this question, and then the mark scheme will be on the next slide. So we've got this local company who's trying to sponsor an elite athlete. So let's say that we've got a company in the local area and there's a footballer that's just coming through and they're going to look like they're going to be the next David Beckham. Why would that company want to be involved? Well, they're hoping that their brand is being associated with that success, so therefore they're hoping that they're going to get increased sales. They're going to therefore increase their profit. If we're associated with that person, then we'd hope that we're going to get increased revenue, so therefore basically more sales, more money. It's also going to be free advertising, like we say. It's not free, but it is cheaper than, let's say, running a Facebook advert. It is cheaper than going on TV. If I know that my brand of football boots is going to be shown, for instance, on TV, then there's more chance I'm going to sell some. People are going to go, oh, I wonder what that is. I'll have a quick Google, and then maybe I'm going to sell more of them. So that advertising, you are thinking about sports people being walking advertising boards or walking billboards, which has got to be brilliant. They also get some tax benefits, because sometimes if you're associated with sport, if you're associated with charitable things, then you can get tax benefits. And that could then lead to having a better relationship in the community. So you sometimes find that local businesses will have links to local clubs because they want to keep it, that community kind of vibe, and that, we're a local business, we're supporting our local teams. And you might see that with maybe some of your non-league football clubs around your area. Now, when we look at these things, this is where, when we go onto another topic, you'll see that certain sports attract more sponsorship because of the media. So women's football, sadly, is not shown in the same amount or the same volume as men's football. So therefore the revenue is way, way lower because they're just not on TV as often. So in my department, I have Mary, who is Fulham women's captain. Well, they just don't get anywhere near the support that the men's team get. Okay, they're in a lower division. They get some free kit because that's fed down from the football club. But again, do they get paid? No. Are they having to train in their free time? Yes. So again, think about how that would impact if they could go full time, if they could have these sponsors who would be able to, push them so that they could be full-time athletes. That would make a massive, massive difference to their game. So, these ideas of how it impacts the club, how it impacts the team, how it impacts the sponsor itself are the types of things that you guys have got to talk about. So we've then got this 9-mark question. Now, you'll see some previous videos where we've done work on 9-mark questions. This one is about how sport has become commercialised due to its relationship with the sponsorship and the media. So you need to evaluate the impact that media and sponsorship have had on sports performers. So if we're saying evaluate, it is this idea of looking at the positives and the negatives, trying to weigh it up as a good thing and as a bad thing. So you want to think about, from the performer side here, how media has an impact, how sponsorship has an impact, and therefore maybe linking those along the way. So if you want to go and try this on your own, pause the video, give it a go, and the mark scheme is going to be in the next slide. So let's have a look. So we've broken this up into AO1, AO2 and AO3. So on a 9-mark question, you get 2 marks for AO2, you get 2 marks for AO1, you get 5 marks for AO3. So don't get too confused or go stumbling into one bit when you need to talk about the other. So let's look at the AO1 and AO2 content first. So you would get an AO1 point for just talking about what the media is. You would get another mark for just saying what sponsorship is and how that might come. So there's 2 out of 9 already. So if again, I don't need to read it, you guys can see it on there. You're then going to get your second set of marks in your AO2. So this is where you get your 3rd and your 4th mark by saying the application of sponsorship and the media to the performer. So if I'm in the media more often, I'm going to raise my profile. So if I was constant in the paper and I was on TV, and let's say I was as popular as Joe Wicks, I would be more marketable, and maybe Under Armour might be giving me free things. They might be, thinking, oh, let's sponsor that person because they're more marketable. If you are, lots of good news stories about you, and there's lots of, likability, a company would be more likely to want to get involved with you as a performer. Now, that can turn people into heroes, that can turn people into role models. You look at the moment, Marcus Rashford, with all the great things he's done for schools, becomes incredibly marketable and potentially a real good person that a company would want to be part of. If we then look at sponsorship, we're thinking here that this increased financial support could help you get better coaching. It could help you to maybe train better and actually have less stress because you're not worried about the financial burdens. So let's say I was sponsored as a amateur cricketer. It means that I'm going to not have to worry about where, I've got to save up some money to go and buy this. I need to go and have a gym membership to stay fit because maybe I'm getting that money from a sponsor. If I'm getting free facilities and if I'm getting free kit, it's going to allow me to be able to use the best equipment. It's going to enable me to maybe increase my performance like we had on that other question. Now, if I only said these things, I could only get a maximum of 4 out of the 9 marks. We then need to move on to evaluating the effect. So the evaluation here is saying, what are the good things that could be there? What are the bad things? So break it up in this one into the media and the sponsorship. Do it separately, don't kind of overlap. So what we're asking you for here is that we're saying that the media has a strong presence, but that could increase the pressure on you to perform. So if you're thinking that you're suddenly becoming extrinsically motivated because you've got all these external things, there's money, there's the fame, the extra wealth and prestige that is coming in, you then got an issue that the concentration becomes on that rather than just intrinsically being motivated. On that side as well, because there's extra scrutiny from the media that they've built you up to be this hero, there's that pressure that you've got to stay like that. So kind of anything that you maybe do wrong could be really scrutinised. There's been lots and lots of examples of that. David Beckham in the World Cup where he's made a mistake. Raheem Sterling seems to get really, really hard done by the media when he's doing really good things. So the way that the media can portray you could have a big impact on there. Now, whilst they highlight the really good things they do, they could really highlight the mistakes as well. Now, you could do something inappropriate in the game, that could be highlighted, and maybe that could lose some of the marketability for you, and therefore lose how commercially viable you might be, and then maybe lose some sponsors. So we've got that idea of the media that there could be some really good things that they can really build you up, but then in the bad way that they could highlight the mistakes that you make. Now, as far as sponsorship, they're going to be asking things from you. So I remember last year there was a new FIFA released and Dele Alli was there doing the FIFA release date. The next day he was in training and his performance didn't seem to be as good as he went through the season. Now, are these extra things that he's doing having an impact? And this is where this comes in. So the contract between the sponsor and the performer may demand that you have to do certain things. Maybe you've got less time then, so you want to go home and rest and recover, but you've got to go to a launch of a kit or a new brand that you're part of. The sponsors may not be suitable, so you might be sponsored, let's say, by a alcohol brand or a smoking company. Is that the sort of appropriate brand linking to somebody who's a sports performer? So again, you could be sponsored by anybody to get us money. Are all the brands the correct ones for a sports person? The outcome might not actually be set because what your sponsor might be asking as success might not be necessarily possible because it's purely focused on an outcome rather than performance or vice versa. And sometimes sponsors will ask to maybe repay money if you've not achieved the goals that they set. So imagine that I'm a long jumper in the Olympics and I'm going to be getting a certain amount of money if I get a medal. And maybe they pay that money up front. If I didn't achieve that, they would ask for that money back because I've not met the contract that has been asked. Now, let's say that I was having a bit of a bad season and over time I started to lose the confidence of the sponsor. Maybe they're going to withdraw some of their help and that could have a big impact on my performance. So we've got to think about those sort of aspects when we look at the evaluation side of it. So quite a big area here because we've introduced commercialization, we've introduced sponsorship, we've shown you the types of media, and we've gone into looking at the performers' benefits and evaluated those, and also started to look at how the company is going to have an impact as well. So lots and lots of information there, and if you've stayed till the end, thank you very much, and comment on the end if you have watched till the very, very end. But it's a topic that we will visit again and add some more bits in, because there are some other things that you need to know, but that video will be very, very long. So those of you who've got mocks coming up, these are the sort of questions that you may see in your exams, particularly in paper 2, because this is a paper 2 topic. So if you like the video, please like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter at planet_PE, and good luck in your mock exams, which are coming up very, very soon if you've not already had them.